I want to talk about the assassination attempt, if I may, and just hearing you talk about your father, and I mean the way you talk about him too, it reminds me of how I feel about my dad. And we lost Dad last year to cancer, which is obviously so many people go through and really, really hard. But yeah, so I get emotional just even thinking about it, it feels very similar to how you feel about your dad is how I felt about mine. How did that feel to watch that almost happen, and does it replay in your mind still? Do you still have moments where you think, what if, and how does that feel?
So we stayed home that Saturday. We were going to be in Wisconsin for the convention. We wanted to spend the last couple of days, last effectively day with our kids. And so we were sitting there watching him on TV as he took the stage. Our kids were effectively on our lap, and he gets up on stage, and I'm writing an email on my laptop, and I hear the shots. And I've done a lot of competitive shooting. I know that world very, very well. And instantly knew what it was. And sure enough, he was down on the ground grabbing the side of his head with blood flowing down the side of his cheeks. And I think kind of the rest is history. And they're sitting there saying, hey, did he get shot in the torso? Did he get shot in the abdomen? How many? Because there was a lot of shots that were fired, and obviously there's blood. And he's wearing a dark suit. I mean, you didn't know where he was hit, and he's laying on the ground, and he was down for maybe 45 seconds with 20 Secret Service agents on top of him, and then he gets up and he does that iconic moment, fight. And I'm telling you, I'm not sure if I've ever seen something motivate a country as much as that moment did. I mean, that just epitomized who he is. And that's only now, you can never script that. You can never, that's pure instinct when he came up, but it was a horrible moment. I mean, our two infant children, maybe not infants, but 6 and 4 at the time, they pretty much almost saw their grandfather get assassinated on live TV, at a young age, sitting on our lap on a beautiful afternoon. And, so you went from sadness, hurt, to pure anger in a very short period of time. I'm not sure if I've ever seen that range of emotion. It's, how could a madman be left on a roof at 130 yards? How could that have possibly happened? You have agencies over here that, spend billions of dollars every single year to not allow crazy people on roofs with rifles. How in the hell could that possibly happen? And I'll never forget, my father called all of us from the hospital, about an hour later, and he's about to go have a CAT scan. And he goes, nothing changes. We go to Milwaukee tomorrow. Exact same time as we're going to go, we go to Milwaukee tomorrow.
The fact that he was thinking about that in the midst of literally being shot. But he was like, the show goes on, we're going forward. He had not planned to go to Milwaukee on Sunday, but he said, we're going on Sunday. We're going tomorrow. Yeah. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, obviously you say, does it replay in your head? Of course it replays in your head. It's shocking, and it's very upsetting, and I think you talk to anyone in America who watched that, it's jarring for all of us. And I think oftentimes about what would have happened, what would that have meant for this country if that had been successful. And then the next day, on Sunday, I felt like I had to talk to our kids about it, because they were going to find out ultimately that something happened to Grandpa. And that was probably the most challenging thing, was to talk to a 4 and a 6-year-old about somebody wanting to hurt their grandpa. And they don't understand why. They don't understand any of this. And you could see our daughter actually at the convention. That was the first time they had seen him. Yeah. She keeps looking up at his ear if you watch the video, because I said, he's fine, Grandpa's fine, but he's got a bandage on his ear. And she had a lot of questions about it. And so the whole time she kept looking up at his ear to make sure it was okay. But yeah, it really feels like America got a second chance. Obviously, Donald Trump will tell you he got a second chance at life. It feels like America got a second chance after that July 13th incident in Butler. There's no question things would be so much different if that had been a successful shot.
You're both so good at this, and I don't say that just to compliment you, but you are, in terms of your ability to convey a message, to talk directly to people, to talk about complex things in a really straightforward way. It's not easy to do. Political aspirations for either of you, surely you've got even an iota somewhere.
You start.
Oh, they make it so nice for us, Aaron. Why wouldn't we want to do more of this? Look, I think that all of us were so green in 2015 when my father-in-law came down that escalator and announced he was running for president. We were like, oh, this will be fun. This will be a nice time. And it is so brutal. These people are so ruthless. And it's actually so sad because it's a deterrent for good people to run for office.
Absolutely.
You know, you want great, smart people, successful people to do these jobs, to work for America, because that's ultimately what this is. You're not in there working for yourself, you're working on behalf of the people. And so I think that there has been a lot thrown our way, and I think for all of us in the family, we'd say we'd have to really think about that long and hard. Obviously, my focus right now is solely on November 5th. But what I've also learned with Donald Trump is you never say never to anything. Because if you would have asked me even a year ago, would I be the co-chair of the RNC, I would have said, I don't think so. Would I be able to win North Carolina twice for Donald Trump? I would have said, I don't think so. But I would never say never to anything. I will say we will all need a nice long vacation after November 5th, though.
Prior to any personal run. What about you?
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. You see the best of a world and the worst of a world, and you see them in kind of competing contrast, right? You just asked about the assassination attempt. I mean, you see your father almost die, and then 48 hours later, exactly almost to the minute, you know, I'm the delegate from Florida who's making him the Republican nominee to President of the United States. So if you want to talk about highs and lows, we've seen them, and we've seen them in politics. We've had the greatest moments, the most iconic moments, standing in front of Air Force One. I mean, just the greatest symbol of maybe American might, or being in the Oval Office. And then we've seen the lowest moments, right, where they ruthlessly attack you, drag you through courtrooms just for their own kind of, you know, political lawfare. And I think we could all do it. We certainly have the voice. We certainly have the message. And I'm telling you, 3/4 of America would run to the end of earth for Donald Trump. And the love out there is incredible. I mean, this isn't a politician. You know, because I think your family was like this. But
Well, see, Dad was a major general who then went into politics because he wanted to serve.
He's
not a politician.
It's so much more. He created a movement, and it's a movement of love. When he walked out in the RNC that day, people are crying, right? I mean, it's a movement of love, something that's rarely ever seen in politics. And I think we could do it. At the same time, I can't emphasize kind of the toll it does take. I mean, sometimes you sit there and say, is it worth it? And you wonder why you have career politicians in office, people who have been there for 55 years, who have never signed the front of a check, who are absolutely worthless, who don't understand the systems, who don't understand real world. They're thrilled to get wined and dined every night by lobbyists and special interests and everything else. They're thrilled to retire after those years and go write books and make millions and move into these fancy neighborhoods, the same neighborhoods that they rallied against when they were in office. It will be interesting to see. We are going to need somebody to carry the torch for this country, and I will say that my father's created a new class of politicians who have backbone and who have loud voices and who aren't afraid to speak up. He's changed the Republican Party. She's changed the Republican Party in a massive way. I think maybe in a certain way we all have, because we've been bold and we've had backbone and we've marched into the fire every single time, and we've been unrelenting. As to whether or not one of us decides to do it, and I truly believe we could. And maybe if the country really called on us, we would.
Would it be president and vice?
I would love it. I would absolutely love it.
They would
100%.
love nothing more, Aaron, than two Trumps on a ticket. Could you imagine? People's heads would fully explode.
That'd be a hell of a ticket. That's perfect.
That would be a great
I love
ticket,
it.
honey.
I love it.